Hi everyone, Trina Phoenix here, and this is going to be 5.3 of the series, and this is the gifts of working with the archetypes. So this is really good because this is what I've always found. You can literally learn about these archetypes inside of you and connect to them and utilize them as appropriate because they're literally built within you. These things are they're a gift that you hold within. So you can utilize different attributes. Like if you have questions upon government and legal stuff and all this stuff, connect to Saturn crown. This is the house of that. You know, when you want to work on your physical strength, passion, love, manifestation, you're going to connect to Mars, the root, the red chakra. So all of these attributes are inside of you, and the solar, the sacral, these are all parts of you. So literally get familiar with these planetary bodies, these beautiful satellites, our sun and our moon, and learn what they are and how they operate within their archetype and their persona. And those attributes and personas you can adopt into your own being through working with this part of your energy center, because these are the hidden treasures within that we're beginning to unlock. And we've had thousands of years of religion, you know, that's put this fear into us about diving into energies and supernatural and all of this stuff. I mean, it has been deeply ingrained in us that if people who were practicing or using nature, natural healing, shamanic work, those people were always in fear of their life, and many of them lost their life trying to hold on to these sacred truths. So within that, understand a lot of you feel resistance within your body, and you don't understand where it comes from because you want to trust your guts. This is where you have to learn discernment and understand the difference between our programs and truth. So may truth shine upon you in your journey of seeking that. So I understand the difficulties of these things because I have struggled with them. I always stayed away from astrology, always stayed away from the Wicca and the witchcraft and all of this stuff. I was always staying away from it because it was just against my foundational belief system, which my guide was the Lord, and I was starting to associate the Lord with Christianity. And man, that is not true. So I've had to break through my own programs, my own misinterpretation of symbols and literally symbols. And when you begin to understand these symbols can be used in upright or reversals, they can be used in positive or negative. So it's how you intend and how you choose to use the symbol. So see which symbols connect to you. See what you've always, as a little kid, what did you doodle? What did you draw? These might be keys to your treasures, to your powers, to your hidden abilities through the connection of these energy wheels and these archetypes, because they hold keys of wisdom. All of them are different masters in different areas of personification, personality. So they're all masters in different ranges. And as they evolve consciously too. And I think this is why planets are born and die and transform into stars and suns and all these beautiful things that we see that happen with the planets and the stars. This is life. You're watching life. It's the same process that we're going through as a human. Theirs is just a lot longer. So, like I said, measurements of time help hold us into a position, a place. So the perspectives are based upon points of time. And points of time you are manifesting through how you feel. So manifest well, feel positive, stay focused on what we're trying to accomplish here, which is new earth, new light, new vibrations, and healing the entire planet, including the human species, animals, all of it. We're going to bring it into balance. It's going to take a little bit of work, but we're up for it. So we can do this. And that's the focus. We've got to stay connected together. We've got to try to find a similar timeline that we can lock into as a group. And I was seeing this today when Wayne was speaking of how we can create time, and time, it's not actually created, but we can influence it, and we can mold it, and we can bend it, and we can bend the light. Bend the light. Think about it. Everything we see is through prism. It's through bent light. So we are definitely utilizing bent light. So if we can focus together as a group on seeing this new earth, this beautiful new existence and new vibrations, and our DNAs shifting, and we becoming lighter and lighter, and requiring less and less food, and requiring less and less of all these physical things, and start becoming more balanced within the energy body and the physical body, I think this is the ultimate gift. And this is what they talk about when the masters say, you take your body with you. So I think this is where we need to go, is see us turning into a lighter, more healed, gentle species, connecting back to nature and seeing nature in harmony. We can literally envision this together. See the oceans healing. See new light emanating from the heart of the earth, which is, I've always seen as a massive crystal. I never knew it had 765 facets or 675 facets. That was new information for me. But I've literally seen this. I've seen this massive crystal that was literally what I was seeing as it was shown to me. It was like the central computer of our planet, and it was through a crystal. So that was huge confirmation for me today that I really am grateful for, because I see things and it's like, how come nobody else is seeing that, you know? And then you get confirmation, and it just makes you feel wonderful, because you're like, I'm going to the right places. So that's wonderful. So travel into the earth, see if you can see her beautiful crystal, connect to it, and look into it and see the timelines that are super happy for us. See the joy, see the love, see the blooming flowers, nature thriving, blue skies, clean water. See these things, see them within the crystal, and we need to lock on to that timeline. This is what I'm seeing. And then we can become weavers, dream weavers, time weavers. We can weave a solid energy anchor into this new vibration. So I think this is why we're here. And Saturday might be a wonderful day for us. So I'm so excited for us to come together and do, I think, what we came here to do. So the gifts of working with the archetypes. For those of you who are still challenged to expand the view of reality to include the existence of other realms, the idea of archetypes can be understood in terms of Jungian psychology. In Jungian thought, when we connect with God or Goddess, we gain the power to draw upon these qualities within ourselves. One aspect of the deity might symbolize courage, while another brings wisdom. One archetype might awaken passion for music, while another inspires the pursuit of scientific understanding. In this way, we may call upon the many different archetypes within our own psyche to help us balance our lives. This is also the way that many ancient people worked with the gods and goddess. For example, instead of identifying with the archetype of this victim or victimizer, the virgin or the prostitute, you might draw upon the bravery of Sekhmet. the lioness of healing and courage. If you are taking the world too seriously, you can invite in the playful energies of Bast or Saravatsi, goddess of the arts. In times of injustice, you may call upon and align with the principle of Ma'at, or Athena, or Archangel Michael. Each powerful allies for justice. If you are focused on the home, Hestia, goddess of the hearth, is a terrific partner. If you wish to open the doors of opportunity, the Roman goddess Cardia, the Egyptian god Anubis, opener of the ways, or the lovely Hindu lord Ganesha. These are all guardians who can help you open doors at the right time. In the times of spiritual darkness, there can be no greater allies than Jesus, Buddha, Horus, or Thoth. All masters of enlightenment. Or you might choose the powerful goddess Durga, who holds the implements of both love and power in her hands. Durga awakens enlightenment, protects the innocent, spins the universe, and repels the forces of darkness, while offering the rose of divine love to all, for those who seek spiritual wisdom and healing above all else. Sophia and Isis are the profound teachers of both. And if you wish to awaken to the currents of compassion, wisdom, partnership, Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene can help you connect with the highest streams of the healing benefits of these pursuits. A hero with 1,000 faces. Whether you consider archetypes as just a manifestation of the collective unconscious or as a real living presence, millions of people have interacted with them in a life-affirming way throughout centuries. At the very least, the stories of the gods and goddesses are role models for heroism, kindness, preservation, grace, and beauty. And in the case of Ishtar, her story provided me with the perspective to see clearly the consequences that lay before me if I repeated my mother's pattern, and to make a different choice. When we step back to realize that in the all-known and unknown dimensions of space, there are trillions of life forms existing in multiple realms. It is not surprising that there are many intermediate divinities between us and the source of all that is. Each one of us is created by the same intelligence, whether we call it the God, Goddess, Autumn, the Great Mystery. This is all divine intelligence that has created our world. Since the divine presence is the sum total of all that is, divinity resides in everything and everyone. God creates billions of substances and subsets of itself, from the highest heavens to the lowest molecule. Its intricate patterns are repeated within the atom, the solar system, the galaxies, revealing an intelligence and a design that is behind all things. Those beings who dwell in the higher realms are more awake than we are. while those in the worlds of shadows are often lost within their amnesia and ignorance. Each life form shares the sacred spark, extending from a subatomic level to the angelic realms, finally reaching the great ocean of love and mercy itself. Since the whole universe is alive with consciousness, energy compartmentalizes itself into packets of more or less complexivity. Those beings who are less evolved are as alive as we are, but they are not as aware. Just as the divinities who are larger than we are more aware. But all of these expressions of God are still smaller than the ultimate creator itself. Joseph Campbell reminds us, the gods and goddesses then are to be understood as embodiments and custodians of the elixir of the imperishable being, but are not themselves the ultimate in this primary state. What the hero seeks through this intercourse with them is therefore not finally themselves, but their grace, the power of their sustaining substance, the miraculous energy substance, and this alone is imperishable. Wow. So what the hero seeks through his intercourse with them is therefore not finally themselves, but their grace, i.e., the power of their sustaining substance. Wow. This miraculous energy substance, and this alone, is imperishable. They're associating grace with immortality. This is a pretty big statement. Wow, profound. Now, having entered the third millennium since Christ, it might be wise for us to consider an attitude of respect for all life, whether in this realm or the next, instead of barricading ourselves behind centuries of ignorance, superstition, and fear. After nearly half of a century of studying the world's greatest myths, Joseph Campbell came to believe that all of these deities of the world in great religions were only masks for the same transcendent truth. Truth is one. The sages speak of it by many names. He said, telling us that all spirituality is a search for the same transcendent source from which everything comes and to which everything will return. Heroes and heroines, he writes, incarnate our highest values, and it is by following the stream of divinity that we arrive at the great river that allows us to claim the totality of who we really are. Imperishable. So, we will begin the next chapter. It's 23, and this is the final chapter of the book. And it is called A Return to the Circle. Great One, who became heaven, thou didst assume power. Thou didst stir. Thou hast filled all places with thy beauty. The whole earth lies beneath thee. Thou hast taken possession of it. Thou enclosest the earth and all things in thy arms. Henry Frankfurt, Kingship and the Gods. Okay, June 21st, the summer solstice. I awoke in the first glimmers of the gray dawn and went out to meet the sunrise. Throwing a blanket over my shoulders, I made my way out into the backyard, and I sat cross-legged in the medicine circle that I had built only a few months before. Of all the 8 high holy days, the summer solstice was the longest day of the year, one of the most celebrated, and it was the victory of the light. I had brought cornmeal and tobacco to offer Mother Earth, 2 of the substances most sacred to the native people. As I poured the soft golden cornmeal onto the ground in prayer and laced it with the sacred herb of tobacco, this herb known for bringing stillness and focus, I realized that they were both the color of the sun. These offerings were not only for Isis, the original corn maiden, who had long ago brought us bounty, but for all of the great solar gods and goddesses who have given their lives to service and shared their wisdom throughout the ages with all of humanity. 5 minutes later, the light began to break across the horizon. Dear Lord, I prayed, accept this cornmeal and tobacco as a tribute to your bounty. Know that I, your daughter, honor you in every expression that you have. Help us as human beings to find balance in our world once again, and to find the good and the sacred in all people, animals, and life. The sun began to rose through the trees, slowly, sending its soft fingers of light across the grass. I found myself thinking about how the symbol for the sun and for illumination had been the first catalyst that had introduced me to the mysteries and to the presence of the goddess in the world. It had come to me so many years ago in a dream. Not only did the circle with the dot in the center represent the illumination, it was the cosmic heart from which the entire universe sprang. If this one was the cosmic heart from which the entire universe first sprang, is this the one symbol that had been led? This was the one symbol that had led to me having so many amazing discoveries. I knew that in time, the other symbols inscribed upon the wall would unfold their magic to me as well. I closed my eyes and I placed my hands over my heart, feeling the light play across my eyelids. Suddenly, the birds broke into song, as if the entire world had just awakened. Heaven and earth, yin and yang, this was the eternal dance of complements in perfect union. And here I was between the world at dawn. All around me, the earth seemed to be lit with an inner radiance, and I realized that although I was just a tiny dot in this magnificent planet, I bathed by the sun. I was part of an infinite intelligence of the entire universe. I could experience the joy, the sorrow, the beauty, the hope of living here upon this glorious planet. My heart was overflowing. I found myself reflecting on all that I had learned in the past few months about the hidden history of our planet, the ancient balanced societies who had lived in partnership without war or oppression. Would we ever be able to return to this state of grace? Would those who were in power across the world, dedicated to fear and dominance, greed and power, ever allow the vision to be known by others? I didn't know, but I did know that if human beings once lived in harmony, we were capable of doing it again. Our generation and the one that had followed us had a chance to find balance again, a path that Jesus and Mary had once called the way of the chalice. The chalice was the union of the male and the female energies, depicted in the phallic stem and the crescent cup. It implies our ability to allow ourselves to be filled with the living nectar of God's exquisite love and to become the vessel of this light and hold it. Later, this union of the two, which culminated in the middle path, was inscribed into the petals of the fleur de lis. Whoa. Making a path of integration and wholeness. Whoa. My mind went back to a passage that I had read about the transformation of the world, written by the wise Masonic teacher, Manly P. Hall. I never knew that the fleur de lis was associated with the way of grace. I was 33 years old, and I put that upon my wrist. Synchronicities are so amazing. Pay attention to the symbols that you're drawn to. It is predestined that the golden age shall come again. Men shall live together in love and understanding. The earth shall become once more a garden of surpassing beauty, as it was in the beginning in that time. There shall be great institutions for research, records, arts, and crafts. They shall flourish. But unlike the preceding generations of this era, shall not pass away. For the God of it shall be beauty, and where beauty in its various aspects rules a people, that people shall remain as permanent in eternity. Wow. In its various aspects rules a people, that people shall remain as a permanent in eternity. When we love the beautiful, oh wow. When we love the beautiful as we now love the dollar, we shall have great enduring civilization. When we adore the God of harmony as we once worshipped the God of vengeance, we shall know the inner mystery of life. When we create with symmetry, preserve with integrity, and release with joy, only then are we good. Never until we have become one with the good can we be happy, for happiness is the realization of the internal beauty that joyously goes forth to mingle itself with the beauty that dwells in space. That's beautiful. Could we now begin to envision a world without war, without bloodshed? We have been programmed to believe in conflict for so long. The first step was letting people know that it was possible, that there is another way of life beyond the one that we have been mirrored to, and the one that is in the mirror now. I also knew that there were many financial powers who sought to prevent this kind of peaceful world from coming back to be in both secular and religious circles. They had been born and bred on conflict. duality, separation, and their religions had taught them that everything else was the work of the devil. But the world was finally changing. Slowly but surely, the dualistic energies of the age of Pisces were starting to pass away, and the new age of anything was possible. How would life change if people really started to honor the Divine Mother and the Divine Father once again? How would we change if women had the same rights as men and refused to be suppressed? If we value intuition, creativity, love, and mercy as much as we now value possessions, money, power, and control, how would our world change? If we truly lived as if we were all connected, treating others as if they were a very extension of yourself, that was the golden rule, was it not? How would life change if we made decisions regarding on our fuel supplies that honored the earth? What if we started honoring the animals instead of slaughtering them for profit or sport? Would we be able to hear them speak telepathically? Yes, you would. As the native cultures claimed we once had. How could life change if we began to take the time to tune in to nature, listening to the intelligence of the waters, the whispers of the trees, and the spirit of the cosmos carried upon the winds? Would we come back into harmony with the Spirit of God within? I hope so, and I believe so. And now it's time that we know so. I reflect on how history had been rewritten again and again by the victors in a political war of the mind, trapping us between threat of a punishing God and the shadows of a boogeyman named Satan. I realized that we had long been engaged in a war for the heart, the mind, and the spirit. An invisible prison designed to keep us in endless loops of materialism, fear, and self-doubt, all created to prevent us from discovering the divine potentials that lie within our very own hearts. Yet now, here, on the cusp of a new age, the age of Aquarius, an era whose symbol is the outpouring of the heavenly wisdom from the stars, the water bearer, Holy Spirit. Hope is beginning to arise. Perhaps this is the time to dream of a more loving society, and then it might become a reality. I found myself reflecting on all of those brave men and women who have given their lives throughout the centuries to keep the dream of equality alive for us today. Those who have sacrificed everything so that the hidden knowledge of a more balanced kingdom might not be obliterated. The Gnostics, the Cathars, Kabbalists, Masons, healers, Knights Templars, herbalists, druids, scientists, philosophers, mystics, artists. Many had withstood tortures of the past so that today we might awaken from our amnesia and break these chains of belief that have kept us in bondage for so long. Wow, that is so true. Today, on the day of the greatest light, I saluted their courage, their hearts, and their sacrifice. When I finished my meditation, the sun was at the top of the trees. I stood up, stretching, then went inside to shower and dress. I packed my car with the blankets, the food, and a sleeping bag, for Shasta had invited any of us who had wished to spend the night in the grove. I pulled up in front of her house in the early afternoon and made my way down to the garden with the other women who were just setting up their tents around the garden's perimeters. Then the group assembled near Mary's garden to eat a meal of tuna, hummus, and pita bread. Around us, the trees seemed to shimmer with radiance, and that afternoon the sunlight touched every leaf as if it were holy. We had finished eating, and Shasta began to speak. Today, you will be offering your first ceremony to the Divine Mother. But before we begin, I want to hear about what has happened in your lives since we last met. How has the goddess been working in your life? Meg began, relating a story of how Lakshmi, I think is how you pronounce it. Sorry if I'm butchering it, because I wish to honor the word if I could. The Lady of Generosity had opened up funding for a children's project in Washington, creating abundance for hungry children across the nation. Alex told us how the goddess Diana had inspired her to join a softball team at her office, and now she was thinking about enrolling in Qigong classes. Donna reported that after choosing Demeter, the harvest goddess, she suddenly was inspired to buy some living herbs at the supermarket. Now she has a collection of rosemary, lavender, lemon balm, oregano, and basil growing in pots on her patio. She had intended to use these plants for cooking, but now she was thinking about creating herbal bath salts. Wow, I marveled. The goddess certainly had been at work. Claudia then spoke up next. She had chosen Tiamat, the celestial dragon, and she had no idea how to relate to her. Shasta told us that many people believe that Tiamat had actually been a large planet, located where the asteroid belt is now. It had been destroyed by an even larger planet, changing its destiny forever. Tiamat, Shasta explained, is about completing or restructuring your life. Claudia nodded thoughtfully. I had known Claudia for years. She had a successful career. She was already a very successful makeup artist and in Hollywood and Atlanta. Although she was fabulous at her craft, her heart longed for something with more meaning. I have been thinking about studying astrology, she said with a tentative voice. I might even become a professional. We all started laughing. Of course. A goddess of the heavens. Perfect. When I shared my story about Ishtar and the romantic relationship that it would have certainly left me drained of energy, the circle became silent. Shasta waited until I had finished to share her insights. Sometimes the lesson is not about making the same mistakes, she explained, but about choosing a more empowered path. The goddess and her stories live on every one of us, men and women alike. We are all the heroes and the heroines of her legacy. What she has done, we have also done. The paths that we travel now, as she has traveled before. So because the Divine Mother has been there before us, she can help us make or choose wiser decisions. When all the women had finished sharing, Shasta began her lesson for the day. Over the past few months, we have moved from winter into spring, and you have heard the many stories about the descent of the god or the goddess into the underworld, and their return into the light. While those may be the myths or the legends, the tale that they tell is very true. We are all aspects of the Great Mother living in the world of light and shadow. Like the legend of the Sleeping Beauty, we are slumbering in ignorance, and like her, we can also awaken. Today is one of the 8 holy high days, where we crack between the worlds. The veils become thinner, and you have a chance to travel between them. While the summer solstice celebrates the illumination of the great solar lords, we must also remember to honor the divine feminine, for the goddess is also solar, just as there are some gods who are also lunar. Solar goddess, lunar gods. Even Emerald looked surprised. She had never thought outside of the classic stereotype that the male was solar while the female was lunar. They're both. I looked across the circle as I could see many of the other women were as equally surprised. Shasta continued. In Egypt, both Kahonasu and Thoth were linked to the moon. Thoth chose the moon because he had discovered its effects. The young god Kahonsu ruled the changing cycles of mortal time. I had no idea. The Egyptians clearly knew that everybody contains both polarities. Shasta went on. Within the goddess path, some of the most ancient female deities are solar, including Sekhmet, the goddess of healing and war, Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, and Bast, the goddess of joy. But the rarest of all the gods and goddesses are those who are both lunar and solar, like Isis and Ma'at. There are those who have integrated both polarities to achieve mastery. The most famous of these divine pairs in the ancient world were Isis and Osiris, while the teachers for our age were Jesus and Mary Magdalene. She looked around to see in the circle to see if we were following. Isis and Osiris were said to have been twins in the celestial womb, a metaphor for their true identities as divine mother and father of all. It sounded like some incarnation of Regal and Ariel to me. Yes. Osiris is the solar and Isis is the lunar. But Osiris can also be lunar, while Isis can also be solar. They are perfectly balanced. When Isis is partnered with Nephthys, her dark sister who rules the unconscious realms, she is expansive, outwardly flowing solar aspects of the female, while Nephthys is the receptive, the reflective aspects of the lunar. And when you compare Isis and Osiris to Nephthys and Set as couples, Isis and Osiris are the male and female expressions of the light, while Nephthys and Set are the female and male aspects of the darker or the more hidden realms. Wow. No wonder they had the power to uplift the world. Shasta continued her narrative. When we begin to speak about the yin and the yang, we are speaking about the balance that leads to mastery. I have told you, yet the true tale of Isis and Osiris is how they helped to save humanity after the Great Flood. But today, it seems like a perfect time. Several of the women shifted as if getting ready for a story. Shasta then began. After the Great Flood, the world was in chaos. People were starving, so cannibalism was rampant. Isis and Osiris decided to help. Since Osiris was a musician, he gathered people together with music and fed them. But he had also brought seeds and planting tools and taught them the skills to grow their own food. Oh man, I keep getting this message over and over again. This is the path. This is how it's done. Wow, what confirmation. So he was giving them the skills for growing their own food as well as the spiritual principles of enlightenment. Yes. Because of this, he was called the Green God, the God of regeneration. This is why he is painted green upon the temples. Meanwhile, Isis was left to bring order into Egypt. She reestablished the temples of God, ended cannibalism, instituted marriage, and crafted the first sailing ships, invented the first loom, and taught the arts of agriculture to her people once again. Together, they established Ma'at, the cosmic law by which all the pharaohs of Egypt were expected to rule. While Ma'at is a goddess, she is also the symbol for the principle of cosmic truth. Meanwhile, Set, Osiris's half-brother, was given the southern Egypt to rule, but he was jealous of Osiris and decided that he wanted Isis for himself. So he tricked Osiris into lying down in a golden coffin, and then he sealed it, and he threw it into the Nile, stealing Osiris's lands from him. Isis was grief-stricken and fled the palace, for she knew what this would mean for Egypt. The only chance she had was to save her husband, so along with her nephew, Anubis, they set out to find him. After a long search, she finally located his coffin in Byblos, where it had been hidden in a huge tamarisk tree that had grown up around it. The tree had been cut down by the king of Byblos for one of the temples, and through a long, complicated process, Isis eventually pried his coffin from the tree and took it back to Egypt. Through magic, she temporarily brought Osiris back to life, impregnating herself with his seed. Then she left to find help, but while she was gone, Set found his brother's body, and he cut it into 14 pieces. Yikes, this sounded grisly, Shasta went on. Knowing that a piece of the kingdom was at stake, Isis gathered up the pieces of her husband's body and bound the parts back together, creating the first funeral rites in Egypt. However, the only piece of his body that Isis could not find was his phallus. Shasta looked around the circle. What is the deeper meaning of this story? We all looked at one another stunned. I had no idea, but I was still shocked at the idea that somebody would dismember such a compassionate being. Susan cleared her throat uncomfortably, and Donna crossed her legs. After a minute, it was then clear that none of us knew how even to begin to decode this story. Shasta spoke. Each of you are just like Isis, and you are searching for the scattered pieces of ourselves. We are trying to put them back together. But the only thing that can mend us is the healing power of love. It is through the heart that we are made whole. Ah, I suddenly got it. As a goddess whose heart beat in time with the Divine Mother's, Isis had the power to bring the scattered pieces of Osiris's body back together and raise him from the dead. He symbolized the Christ within, and she symbolized the redeeming quality of love that can unite and revive us all. After a minute, Donna said, "But what does the phallus represent?" Shasta looked around in the circle. Any ideas? I could have understood that story more easily, I thought, if it was the heart that was missing. But what did the phallus represent? I wondered. The phallus represents the regenerating principle of life itself. When we find it, we will awaken Osiris, and we will bring him back to life. I was trying to put the symbols together in my mind. The scattered parts of Osiris were like the assortments of the archetypes that live within us. One, new beginning, phallus. They are the many selves that we have left scattered throughout time, not only in this life, but in our past incarnations. Only by remembering, healing, and reuniting the lost aspects of who you are can you reawaken to the Christ that lives within. And the only thing that had the power to do this was love. In a very literal sense, the phallus is the one part of a man's body that creates new life. And like the spine, the phallus symbol has long been connected to the tree of life. So while love is the power that unites and heals us, we must find our way to unite ourselves with our mystical powers and connect to the tree of life, the symbol of the way of return to the source of who we are. Those Egyptian sages were certainly clever, weren't they? They had created symbols that were encoded in myth and legend that would unfurl their wisdom even to us today. If we could only decipher the symbols, the true significance. This allegory of the Christed One, who is divided himself and can only be healed by the power of the divine feminine, is not only about us individuals, it is about our fragmented societies that lie scattered like broken bodies of our past. We have forgotten the trails and the trials of our own history. And to be healed, we must remember the pieces of our journey that have brought us here so that we can heal the past and change the present and create a positive future. Then we can come back into union with the cosmos. But only love can make us whole. Shasta looked around the circle. I was surprised to see tears on the cheeks of some of the women, but I knew how they felt. We have been lost so long in the underworld that how possibly then could someday we awaken as peaceful, cooperative humans upon one planet? It was almost beyond imagination. The place where the healing happens is in the heart. Shasta explains, it is the place where all judgment fades. All polarities unite into 0 point. Silently, she placed her hands over her heart. After a moment, we joined her, feeling ourselves come truly present within the moment. And then she rose to her feet, and the group rose with her. Shasta picked up a rattle and passed around the basket of the gourd rattles. Around the circle, slowly, we each chose one. I closed my eyes and I took a breath, feeling my heart swell within me. The radiance of the moment. Shasta began to sing. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall all return. Like a drop of rain flowing into the ocean, we all began to dance, making a long circulous path through the entire garden. At every alcove we stopped, and one of the women would offer a ceremony to the goddess that she had chosen. Some sang songs, some danced, others used symbols or prayers. As the many faces of the Mother moved into our hearts, I realized that each of us was being introduced to each of the goddesses, and that some of them were speaking silently in the power and in the beauty of the ritual. When they had finally finished, we found ourselves standing inside the medicine circle at the base of the garden. As the sun was going down, Shasta had laid a pile of wood in the fire pit at the center of the wheel, Now she reached down and lit the logs, letting the golden red flames lick up into the darkening blue sky. The wood began to pop and crackled, releasing its life force to offer us light. For a long time, no one spoke. Everything we needed was in the moment. Finally, little Meg cleared her throat and began to chant. May light to your light, sister and friend, bless now the children from beginning to end. That's powerful. Wow. Sarah looked over to her and picked up Meg's chant. Heal now, bringing forth emotions. Heal now our sorrow, our sadness, our pain, and help us return to your wisdom again. Sharon then looked over with a smile upon her face. Awaken our hearts and remind us to give, that we may embody the power to live. Emerald lifted her head and said proudly, rekindle the wisdom that lies in our hearts and banish the darkness that keeps us apart. Claudia picked up the chant. Give us the strength and the power to love, that we may join earth with the heavens above. Suddenly the words rose in my unbidden, as if we were all listening to the same unbroken song. In moments bold and currents deep, let us awaken those who sleep. Alex followed. The time has come, and the people yearn for love and healing and peace to return. Donna finished. Awaken the mother, let peace come to earth, for we are the ones who bring the world to rebirth. When the mantra had completed itself, we stood in the fullness of silence with our arms laced over one another's shoulders. The firelight licked our faces, and we were complete. Wow, that's beautiful. That night, as I lay sleeping beneath the stars, I had a great vision. Whether it was a vision or a prophecy, I cannot say. But I was staring at the surface of the still blue pond at the moment before the first drop of water fell, and the heartbeat of the world began. Like an echo rippling across the smooth circle of fluid waters, this drop spread out to everything. Then I heard a chime through the silence, ripping through the universe. With the timbre of 1,000 Tibetan chants, the voice began, O Dhyana, O Dhyana, O Dhyana, over and over again. From the sound flowered atoms, tones, harmonies, and galaxies, all of it. I was caught up in the power of its resonance, linked to creation itself. I thought the sound, I felt Ariel enter into my consciousness and speak. I stretched out of my inner senses to greet her, but this aspect of the Great Mother felt far more ancient than she had ever shown me before. Ariel, is that you? You feel like a wise old grandmother. You're different somehow. An ancient presence filled my mind, and I realized that this was the presence behind the word, the first cause, the one that the Egyptians had called Atum, the power behind the Divine Mother and Father. The silence was so deep within me that there were no words for it. I then realized, that the beings I knew as Ariel and Regal were the first emanations of this immensity. But this aspect was far older, the one who existed before anything else, the Word and the silence itself. Oh, smack. That is truth. The Word and the silence itself. This is Creator. Combined. Word and silence. Mother and Father. Powerful. Oh, Diona, I whispered, the great mother of the all. The one behind the many. Yes, it is I, the voice answered. A hum and a song all at once. Suddenly, I found myself traveling through a deep star field. The velvetity and the richness of the heavens around me. It was warm and it was comforting, like the mother's womb, not cold or empty. Then I realized I was actually floating in the great dark ocean, and that the universe of luminous lights were reflected above me and below me. I had been to this place once before, and I felt infinitely safe. You are the grandmother of the all, I whispered, aren't you? That I am. Oh gosh. I think I'm going to have to pick up there, guys. I need to get a drink. And this is about 60 minutes. And it's ironically, I'm drawn to start. All I whispered, aren't you? That I am. Page 444. So we will pick up next on more of the description of the Great Mother. And we are very close to the end of the book. So, with that, we will see you on the next one. I hope you guys are enjoying this. I love this. I'm connecting to this in a very big way. This is what we came here to do. So I love you. Be the best you can be. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for being here, my soul tribe. Without you, I am not me. I love you.